Hi guys, in this video I'm going to look at how you can pass data from one activity to another. So in my last two videos I already walked through how you can start activities using intents. So in this one what we'll do is with those intents we're going to pass data from one activity to another. Now there are lots of reasons why you'd want to do this, so I'm just going to give you an example of an app that requires it. So what I have here is I have an app I've already constructed. I'll just quickly walk you through it. It's actually a choose your own adventure book, and I've adapted to an app. So in this case, this is just your starting screen. So if we click on new game, and you can scroll through the intro, and you can skip the intro if you wanted. And now at this stage you can roll for health, luck and skill. So we'd have these integers here, health, luck and skill. So when we'd roll for these attributes, it initializes these integers that have been created. Now this is the main activity class. So and here we have our integers health, skill and luck. So what would happen here is this data has now been initialized. So our health is 16, our luck is 10, and our skill is 12. So there's some data there we might want to pass through. So if I continue, and here's some more data. We can pick a potion. We'll just pick a potion of life, which restores health points. Now at this stage, there's an option here to check your stats. Now this is where we're gonna pass our data. So what we want to be able to do is for the user to be able to check their stats at any time. They can check it here if they like, but there's also an option in the menu which I've created that if you click stats, at the moment it doesn't do anything, but what I'd want it to do is open up a new activity which displays this layout. Let's just open this up a little bit bigger, and it shows our stats. So this would be a new activity, and the data we'd be passing in would be like our skill, our health, our luck. We've also got these initial figures, which we go back to our main activity, will be our maximum health, maximum skill, and maximum luck. And what we also have is with these provisions, we have when I selected a potion, these are the potions: strength potion, luck potion, health potion. Now you'd notice here that some of these have been initialized already. These ones here have been initialized and some haven't. Don't worry about that too much. There's a reason why I did that, but it's not important. So, but these are also going to be passed as well. We've also got gold, because during the game the player has the chance to collect gold. So we want to be able to show that as well. So if we look at the stats, it'll also show how much gold. There's also a string as well. So we've got integers, and so we're going to pass some integers, and we're also going to be passing a string as well. Now in this case, the string would be almost like an inventory. I've called it, if I go back to main activity Java, I've called it, it's an array. It's called items, but it's going to be an array of strings. So you can hold more than one item. So we're going to pass an array of strings through, which is a little bit more tricky than a string. Is quite simple to pass through. An array is a little bit more tricky. It's not that much more difficult. Let's close that. Yeah. So we've got integers and we've got some strings. Now if I go back to this, so if we go to continue, let's say, now they've got some choices here. You can open a box. In this case, the player would find 2 gold pieces. So at this point, if you go to menu and stats, ideally your stats would show that you have 2 gold pieces. If we go here again, this would say 2. So we want to be able to pass all that information into this activity. And when this activity is opened, we want the user to be able to click this continue button. Also, I should have already said that I'd already created this XML file full of TextViews, and these are images. These are all individual images that I've managed to find off the internet. Don't forget, this is for my own personal use, so there's no copyright issues here. So I've created this XML file previously. But this XML layout is going to be our new activity, and when the user clicks continue, all that's going to do is finish that activity, and so then it can go back to whatever window, whatever layout the player was previously on. Say for example, if it was this layout. So at any time, the player can click on the menu and show his stats. And as for this button here, in my last I think it was video 6. In my Learn Android Studio video 6, it shows you how to create these buttons, these menu buttons, which would be in our our main XML file, which is this menu here, this XML file. Yeah, video 6 shows you how to do that. So yeah, so I'm just gonna walk through that. So we need to go to our main activity Java class, and I'm just going to find my stats switch function. That's so when this button's clicked, it navigates here. So okay, so we're going to start our intent. So intent, and we're going to call it get stats, something like that, whatever you want to call it. Get stats equals new intent. And let's go from this class, and we haven't created our other class yet, but we're just going to call it, we're going to call our new class stats, because we have to create another class, call it stats class, and we just finish that off. Now what we'll do is we'll create that class now. So we go to our package and new Java class, we can create a new class, call it stats. So we got a new class, new public class, and just like our main activity class extends activity, so this is going to extend activity as well. So we get extends activity. Okay, and we're going to right click here, and we're going to generate an override method on create saved instance bundle. So there's our on create method, and we're just going to leave that there for now. So we'll go back to our main activity, and we go back to our where we were. So it now registers the stats class. So there's our intent. And just like in the videos before, this is all stuff that I covered in my last video. So we're going to open up our manifest, and I've got these other activities as well. But just below this main activity, we're going to create another activity, and we're just going to select this stats class. And we can give it a label, we can give it a name, so when the window opens up, it will display our display name at the top of the window here. So we'll just say label, start typing label, and we'll just call it stats. We'll just call it statistics, something different, I suppose. And we'll just leave it with that. We'll just close that off. Okay, so there's our declaration for an activity in our Android manifest. Okay, so we'll go back to our main activity where we left off, And what we want to do now is we want to be able to pass all this, all these integers, because we're going to need them all. So get back down here. So what we do is we start typing get stats, which is our intent object. So get stats and dot, and we get these methods we can use, and we want to put extra. And what this does is basically adds extended data to our intent. So we can add all this extra data to our intent, and we can then grab that data later. So you can see what kind of data you can add. So we're just going to go put extra, and what it asks for, it asks for two values. The first value would be the name you want to call it. So you can call it anything. So we go open up our quotes, and we call the first piece of data. So the first piece of data we're going to put in is our health. So we can call this whatever we want. So we'll call this, say, because we're going to pass the data through, we're going to call it passed health. So we're passing health through. Just, you can call it whatever you want, but put it in quotes and then comma, and then the actual value you want to pass, which in this case is health. So we're passing this value into this name, and that's it. So we're going to pass that integer value into this name, and then you can close that off if you want, and you can do another one. Get stats dot put extra, and we're going to pass the next one. We're going to pass is going to be our maximum health. So passed max health, that's what we're going to call it, and we're going to, the actual variable we're going to pass is max health, and we can close that off. And we'll do another one. Get stats, put extra, the next value is skill, and then we're going to do max skill. We're going to do this one just a little bit differently. We're doing the same thing, but it just looks differently. So we'll call this one passed skill, and comma, and the value we're passing is skill. Now instead of closing off with a semicolon, you can just press dot again, and you can just carry on, put extra. The next one we're going to do is max skill. So we say passed. Don't forget this name, you can call it whatever you want. Max skill, and the value we're going to pass is max skill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on with these. I'm going to pass all these through, all these integers through, and I'm going to edit it. So because you don't want to see me sitting here typing all this out, so I'm going to use power of video editing, and I'm just going to finish this off and then come back. Okay, and so that's all done. So that's all those values, all these integer values passed through. And our last one is this string of items, an array of items. The reason why it's an array is because along the way the player can pick up different items, like say rope or bracelet or something like that, and you can. The good thing with array lists is you can just simply, if I give an example, I can say here that I've added two items to the variable items, balls and rackets. I don't know why I chose balls and rackets. So it's added two items to our inventory. I should have called this inventory, not items. So that's the good thing with array lists, is you can just type add, and it will simply add the items to the array. So in this case we have two items in our items variable, array, balls and rackets. Not very fitting for let's change this. Let's change it to rope. So it's silly, balls and rackets. Rope and say dagger. So we've got 2 items in our array. So we're going to pass these over to our activity as well. Now I'm just going to create a new one like I did here. It doesn't matter. I could carry on. I could delete this, and I could oh, it's missing a dot there. That's it. I could carry on, but I'm just going to finish that off. So I'm just going to make it clear what we're going to do here. So get stats dot, and I don't want put extra. I want, because it's an array of lists and it's a string, I want to put string array list extra. It's a long old one, that one, but that's the one I want. So it's going to do exactly what it says, and I'll just call this past items. That'll do, yeah, call it that. Anything to do, like I say, and I'm simply going to pass in items. That's it. I'll put it like that. I've put it this way just for clarity. But like I say, what I could do is just delete that. I could go there it is there. Put string array list extra past items. Finish that off with a colon. So it's going to pass all this information, all these integers, and this string array of strings into that intent. And all I need to do now is start the activity. Start activity, and the name of the intent. Get stats. So now what we want to do is we want to collect this information. So we go to our stats class that we created, and on create. So when it's when it runs this on create method, like I said before in my other videos, we want to set content view to r.layout, and it's the layout we want is this one here, stats.xml, which is in our layout folder. Stats. So that's the layout we want. So it will show that layout, but don't forget it won't show the values, because at the moment it's just showing. It will show this. It will show it as it is. And so these values will be wrong. At the moment they're just defined in the XML. So for example, this one here, which is here, the text is just simply 99. So just so I can see where it's, just so I can see for alignment purposes where all the boxes were going, and the inventory will go in this box here. That's where I want the inventory to go. So at the moment it would just display that screen, and the values are going to be all wrong. So we need to pass these values over. So we need to set up our intent. The name of our intent, get stats, equals, let's name that right, get stats equals get intent, and then we get that intent. Now what we want to do now is set up our variables just like we did here. So we want to set these up. So what we can do is we can select all this, copy that to our stats, and just paste that again. So we've got our values we're going to collect. We're just going to call them the same name. Again, you can call them anything you want, but I'm just for clarity, I'm just going to call them what they were. So I want to delete all these. I actually want the equal signs. I'll leave them in. So int health, right? There's our first variable we're going to collect from the data that we've passed. So if we say get stats, which is the name of our intent, and we want to, instead of put extra, we want to get the data basically, but we need to specify what value we're getting. So in this case it's an int, because we passed an integer. So this value is an integer. We want to collect it as an integer because we're declaring it as an integer. So get int extra, and we need to specify the name that we gave it. In this case it was past health. We called it past health. Just go back to verify that. This one here. So we're collecting this data. So we're telling it to collect this data that we call past health. And if that value doesn't exist, we have to give it a default value. So we'll just say 0. Otherwise it throws an exception. So we just need to say, if that value doesn't exist, just declare this variable as 0. But it does exist, so what it will do is it will then initialize this health to what the value was at this point in the game. And we just do the same for all the others. So max health, so again, get stats. We want to get int extra. This one we called past max health, and if that value doesn't exist, just say 0. And I said we do the same for all these. So again, I'll do these all quickly, and then with video editing I'll be right back. Okay, so there's all the variables are now initialized. I've managed to get, what we've done is we've collected all the data from the intent, and we've passed that data into these variables. So what we've effectively now done is passed all the information from this class, all the values that are set at the time of these values at the time. We've now set them the same to these values, which are exactly the names are exactly the same. Now what we'll do is we'll quickly run this just to make sure it works, but it won't. Again, like I say, it won't actually display these values because we haven't set the text views. It will collect the data, but it's just sitting in the background. It's not doing anything. So I'm just going to make sure that it does actually pass the data and collect the data as well. So we'll just run that, and we've missed a. Here we are. We've missed a semicolon. Let's try that again. Okay, so if we create a new game, continue or skip intro, let's set some variables like health, luck and skill. Continue, set a potion of life. Continue. Let's put some gold in, so we've collected some gold here. Should be enough. We've got provisions, so we start the game with 10 provisions as specified here. So that's what we need to do now, is make sure. There we go. So that's opened up this activity. So as far as it's concerned, it's passed the data and it's collected the data, but we haven't set these text views. All we need to do now, I can press the back button, it will close this activity, but what I'll be able to do is click this continue button, so it says it's crashed because I haven't actually set this continue button up. I'll quickly do that now. So go to our stats, this button here. There's an on-click method I've already set up, stats continue button. I haven't defined it in our, haven't created it in our stats class here. So click here, and it's created this method. So when we click that button, it runs this method, and all I want to do is just finish the activity. It's just run that, make sure it works. It should do. Ooh, let's try that again. there we go. There's our stats window, and that's just closed it. So what we're going to do now is set these text views, these values into these text views, which I'm pretty sure I've covered. I think I've covered in one of my videos, but I'll do one here just in case I haven't. I can't remember if I have done or not, but I'll do one. Once we do one, you'll know to do them all. So what I'll do is I'll set this one up first. So I'll set the initial skill and the actual skill. So we're going to set these values up. So I need to create a text view object, and we're going to call this. It wants to. Here we go. It wants to import that package. So we just Alt and Enter, and that will become part of one of our imports. So since imported that, we'll call this TV initial text view initial. Spell initial skill. So set up a text view object called initial skill, which is equal to text view, and find view by. I have covered this in one of my previous videos. It's all coming back to me now. So we want to find view by RD, and it's r.id dot text view initial skill, semicolon. That's it. We need to create a string called initial skill, and it's going to be equal to string.value of max skill. There's our variable there. So because text views don't take integers, because it is actually max skill is an integer. So what we need to do is take max skill, turn it into a string, and we'll call that value has now become a string called initial skill. Because max skill is our initial skill. Really, I could have just called that max skill just to be clearer, but I'll leave it as that initial skill. And now I'm going to call our object TV. Just going to call that up, and we're going to say set text of the text view to display this value, which is max skill. So we're going to put initial skill. So what that'll do is set the text of this text view initial skill to whatever this value here is, which is here, which is a string, which has been converted into a string because it was an integer. Here it's an integer, and that should display it. So we'll just test that. Probably need to initialize it. So if I go new game, roll health, roll luck, roll skill. So our skill is 12. So we open up our stats, and our skill is 12. So we know that all the information's been passed, or at least the skill has been passed successfully, or the maximum skill has been passed successfully. So what I'll do is I'll quickly set all these text views up to these stats just to see, make sure they all work okay, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's all our views, apart from our inventory, our items. I haven't set that up yet because that's just done slightly differently. So if we run this, new game, skip intro. So if we try and remember, order is it in 8, 19 and 12. 8, 19 and 12. Potion of life. Continue. Let's get some gold. So should have 2 pieces of gold. And let's check that. There we go. 8, 19 and 12. Set the initial values. Set the actual values. We've got 2 gold. And we haven't set the provisions. Let's just double check, make sure I've done that. I haven't done that. That doesn't matter. I just haven't set the provisions text view, but we know everything else works. We know all the data's been passed. The only thing left to do is just display our array. Now to display an array, it's slightly different. We'll set up our text view object. We call this items, TV items equals text view. Find view by ID. R dot ID dot text view items. Yep. Okay, so that's our text view object set up. Now what we want to do is we want to collect all the items inside of our array, and I've just realised we haven't actually collected the items from our get stats intent data, the data from our intent. So we should declare the variable, the array. So we'll say list string, just like we did in our main activity. Basically we want, where are we? You want this. Ooh. We want this, but I'm just gonna take this piece here because I don't need this array. I don't need this bit here. I'm just going to select this bit. So I'm just going to, it wants to import this array list package, so it's just imported it here. So we've declared our, and import the list. Yep, there we go. So we've got our declared our items array, and we want to get this array now. So it's items equals get stats intent, and instead of put string array, it's get string array extra, and we called it past items, and that's it. We just leave it like that, and that's it. So what we want to do now is go to our stats. We want to display all the items that are in our array inside this text view. Now to do that we need a for loop. We need to use a for loop. So we've declared our text view object, TV items. So we need to set up a for loop. So for int I equals 0. If I is less than size of our array, so if our array size, so if there's only 2 items in our array, then it'll only cycle through twice. So if I is less than the size of our array, well, how many items are in our array, then execute the following, and then increment I by 1. There we go. So on our first cycle, we want to do is reference our text view, TV items, and we want to use the method called append. And basically all that does is it adds onto whatever is existing in that object. So it doesn't overwrite, it appends, it adds onto. So we specify what we want to add to our text view, which is our items, and we want to get whatever's in our first index of our array. So the first item in our array of items, we'll get that item and append the text to our text view. And I'll leave it like that because there's something else we need to add, but I'll show you what happens if we'll just leave it like that. So what that'll do is should cycle through twice, because there's only 2 items in our array. There's a rope and there's a dagger, so the item size is 2. So it'll cycle through twice and append whatever's in our items. So we'll run that and see what happens. So quickly, new game, skip intros, just set these variables up, and I'll go through it this way. Stats. There we go. So we can see it here. It's not displayed it very well, but at least it has collected the data. So we know that the intent has sent over the array of items and has grabbed that array of items, and this code here has cycled through twice and displayed our text. Now we can tidy this up a bit. Like I say, it appends, so it doesn't actually overwrite. So it's kept new text, then it's added rope, then it's added dagger. Now we can tidy this up easily by, first of all, we can go to our stats, and this new text, we can just clear that, so it doesn't actually say anything. So that's empty, the text is empty. And our text view, and after here we can just simply say reference our text view, TV items, append again, and we can simply just say /n, which means new line. It's like a carriage return. Basically, that's carriage return. So it will display this for loop will display the first item, which is rope, and then come down here and do execute a carriage return, and come around again, get the second item, which is dagger, and then execute a carriage return. So we'll just check this, make sure it works. And there we go, rope and dagger. So that's it. That's how you pass data from one activity to another. Sorry if it was too long. I wanted to try and be as clear as possible. I hope it was clear, but I do hope it was helpful. Thanks for subscribing and thanks for watching. Take care.